You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com.
Let me take us home. Let me start us out.
1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
There's the crack of the bat. And speaking of bats, I wish I had one right now.
I've got deja vu, Jamie. Deja vu. I've heard that song sometime in the most recent past. I think that recent past was 10 minutes ago when I first heard it.
Welcome. We started, we stopped, and we're starting over again. This is episode...
I got to put the man on camera that's usually behind the glass.
33.
Matt Fox.
I'm an asshole. All right, come on.
This is the man that started and helped us stop the episode just so we can get going on a flying new start.
Hey, if you're gonna throw me under the bus, Charles, you gotta talk right into that thing right
Man,
now.
I got a problem with talking right into it.
So it's Detroit City of Champions. I'm Jamie Flanagan, along with the author of the trilogy of books, Charles Avison, and Matt Fox is with us.
I am not gonna touch my phone.
I love you, Matt Fox.
I love Matt Fox.
Too, guys,
and I'm gonna need another cocktail in a minute. I don't know if I want to. I should probably play it. I got a little bit here. All right.
We got Jack over here.
I know. And but Charles,
we can send Matt Fox on a.
We did the man
on a Jack Daniels.
We did the man cave.
Over.
We did the man cave happy hour, and we're here at the Podcast Detroit studios in the Detroit Shipping Company, downtown Detroit on Peterborough. It's a really cool place. The summer is in full swing. Detroit is alive, much like it was coming alive in 1935, because teams were winning. It was crazy that they brought in the middle of the Depression, and it was giving the city something to be hopeful about and, and cheerful about.
That's what the interesting component. I've a lot of times when I tell this story to people, they say, "Man, I wish I was alive then to see all those incredible events."
You'd be eating shoe stew.
You'd be eating lard on toast for the Great Depression, which was a common fare in the Great Depression. Lard on toast.
Yep.
So this was a tough age. Right. It was a difficult era to live.
Right.
And when these sports teams started even playing remotely well, these fans got behind their teams, as Detroit teams do, as Detroit fans do. When a team starts to play well, like when a team starts to give their fans something to get excited about.
Yeah.
Detroit fans are known for coming out to support these teams. Who cute that is that music? How long is that music?
It's still going. It's like 3 minutes long.
Okay.
I normally turn it off, but I'm just grooving on it.
I'm not.
Okay.
Thank you.
I love music.
I don't need any hype more. I don't need any more hype tunes. I don't need any hype tunes. I'll go with hype tunes. But I don't need it. I don't need. I can hype plenty without the tune.
Yeah.
So anyway, as today, when 84 Tigers, 68 Tigers, you got it. Hit it with it. If you got to hit it with it, you got to hit it. But like I say,
sometimes I gotta.
Sometimes too much hype is just a little bit too much.
All right,
the hype music is hype, but the hype words spitting out of my mouth just takes it almost too much.
The Red Wings, right? This is where we are.
We're at the Red Wings. We've been through the Tigers. We've been through the Lions. We're going to get to Joe Louis. We're going to get to Garwood. We're going to get to the 33 championships all told. The minor league Olympics we're talking about. We're knee deep in the Red Wings in the greatest season to ever take place in the history of American sport.
So before we get back into the Red Wings and where we're at in this season, you mentioned Joe Louis, and Matthew and I, and it's about a mile from here.
Yep.
We were hanging out with Joe Louis.
Joe Louis
Barrow Jr. The third. there's a lot to, but he was in town for the launch of the Joe Louis Southern Kitchen in the New Center area. It's right on Woodward, just about 3 doors south of the boulevards, just steps away from the Fisher Building. Amazing food.
You guys look like you're having a good time. I look at a few pictures on
It's
Facebook.
only open from 3 to 7.
7 to 3.
Yep, that.
Yep.
Not 3 to 7.
Not 3 to 7. Yeah.
7 to 3. So breakfast and
3
brunch.
Yep.
Breakfast, lunch, and brunch.
Limited. That's awesome. They're like, our stuff is so good that it's limited.
And Joe talks about it.
Yeah. And the food. Oh God, the mac and cheese with the Cajun fried turkey leg.
Jeez.
Oh my effing God, it was amazing.
Well, they could pick up some business doing those turkey legs with all the events down here. Because I live right around the corner, and there's events all through the year. If they sold turkey legs at these events, I mean, they wouldn't even have to have the restaurant open.
It was the sample we got was like all mixed up, but when you get it, you get a full turkey leg just covered in just goodness.
They need to be selling those turkey legs during events down here because there's parties out here where there's like 30,000 people.
It's like the Renaissance Festival on stage.
It was a Southern Kitchen Renaissance Festival leg. It was
I've met Joe Louis Barrow Jr. through those Zoom chats we've had.
That's right. You were on the Man Cave when
with
we were
Joe
doing
Louis
the bourbon
numerous times. So
we're gonna.
I'm looking forward to Tom. Our main man.
Can't wait
Tom,
to get Tom in here.
Well, Tom is has an entire packet of stuff he wants to give to Joe Louis regarding his father, who Tom's got like this deep embedded love for Joe Louis that he can't wait just to give his son. So
I know. Yeah, but we sat down and talked to him, and it was nice because what we talked about was naming the Joe Louis Kitchen, Joe Louis Southern Kitchen, and how Joe Louis Arena. Is gone, and I was curious how and you'll have to go back. It's the video's on Facebook. Charles will find out if you want to release it as a City of Champions episode or not. But it's there. The video's on Facebook and on YouTube. And just talking to him, I was curious as to how that the stadium going away impacted the family. You got to listen to it to find out. But then the other pieces, the Joe Louis fist, the statue that's out there, that's there to stay. And then the Joe Louis Greenway. They just broke ground.
That's cool. Yeah, the Joe Louis Greenway is cool.
And how he expected. Joe Louis Barrow Jr. the third broke into tears. As we were talking about this, he was so moved by what we were talking about. I'm like, way to go, Matt. You made Joe Louis cry.
Okay, but here's the thing. I want to say this real quick, all right, while we're talking about Joe Louis.
He's a nice guy.
I know we're talking about the Red Wings, but I got to say this about Joe Louis.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the original Joe.
Okay, yeah.
And it's is that we've got a Joe Louis fist monument downtown Detroit. We've got this huge fist, right? Cobo Hall has a statue of Joe Louis. Joe Louis is a household name. Who doesn't know? Who's never heard of Joe Louis? Joe Louis Arena, a hockey arena was named after Joe Louis, a boxer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's a question to the viewers out there. We've all heard of the name. Everybody knows his name.
Yeah.
Yes.
But how many people are familiar with the story of Joe Louis?
Yeah.
How many people know why he was so great?
Oh my God.
That it would cause all of those things to happen. A fist statue of all the legends that have come through Detroit. You've got a massive fist downtown Detroit, and then you've got an arena named after him and a statue at a Cobo. Why is Joe that's the thing that gets me. When I first started reading about Joe Louis, I had heard of all those things. I knew virtually nothing about Joe Louis when I first approached my first book. I knew nothing about it. In fact, when I did the thesis that led to the books, I never even included him in it.
Right.
Joe Louis, he wasn't a champion in 35. He wasn't, he didn't do his thing.
He did win that award, but he wasn't champion.
He wasn't champion.
Right.
Of all the 33 champions, Joe Louis is not included. He's not a 34. Joe Louis is not included in the 33.
Right.
He was not a champion in 1935. But I make a case in the second book that what he did in 1935 was the greatest.
Set the world afire.
I make the entire premise of Joe Louis section of my second book, which occupies probably a third to a half of the first book of the second book. The entire premise is making a case that 1935 Joe Louis was the greatest individual season in the history of American sport. Yet he did not finish as the NFL as a boxing heavyweight champion.
Yep.
So how can somebody that didn't even win their championship finish like the case? I either make a horrible case or I didn't make my case, or what he did in 1935 so outpaced and surpassed.
You're just a fanboy.
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe I'm either a fanboy or maybe I made my case. You see what I'm saying? When we get to Joe Louis, I will explain those components. But what I'm saying is
we're going to take a lot of time with Joe.
But we're going to take absolutely. But what I'm saying is that Joe Louis is one of the most important, not sports athletes of the 20th century. I'm saying Joe Louis is one of the top 10 or 20 most important people of the entire 20th century.
Without a doubt.
Joe Louis is critical. And so that's why I can't wait to get to Joe Louis.
The war effort and
absolutely all of it.
And just, the racial divide, breaking down barriers. And
what Joe Louis did was so
astounding.
What Joe Louis did inside the ring and outside the ring is so critically important. And I asked the question again, the same question that I started this entire line of thought with. What do you, the listener, you, the viewer who are listening to this now, what do you know about Joe Louis? You've heard the name. Wait till we get to the point where we actually get to tell you about the legend and why those things were named after him. Why those people that named him, that made the fist, named the stadium, made the statue, why they did so. It is never. There's no movies. There's no nothing. There's no nothing about Joe Louis that's come out. Right. And wait till we get to it. And that's one of the signature components of the movie that I've already written. In the movie that we want to do is to show just how great when the movie comes out. Probably the thing that everybody's going to fall in love with is the Joe Louis. Right. I've actually already planned for like an expansion. Like if it comes out as a Netflix miniseries, I've already written it so that there's a spinoff capabilities of doing it entirely. Like because the movie I wrote was about Joe Louis in 34 and 35. But you could do a spinoff series just on the rest of Joe Louis's life story because it's so incredible. And Joe Louis emerged out of this. The final thought I have on this, Joe Louis emerged out of this as my favorite athlete of 1935.
Okay. Wow.
My favorite athlete. My favorite story is Gar Wood. My favorite athlete is Joe Louis. My favorite Tiger, Mickey Cochran. Yeah. My favorite Lion, Glenn Presnell. My favorite Red Wing of 1935 is Bucko McDonald. My favorite Red Wing overall is Ebby Goodfellow.
So is that where we're gonna dig into Bucko now?
Oh, we've talked about Bucko. I've made Jamie the biggest Bucko fan.
I'm a huge Bucko
He's a
fan.
big Bucko fan.
Fair enough.
Oh, we'll go. Trust me, Bucko comes up. Comes up.
So the team that played at Joe Louis Arena for years and years and years and won several of their championships in Joe Louis Arena were playing at Olympia Stadium.
Yes.
Finally filling up the freaking stadium, right? Beginning of the season, the stadium holds about 10, 12,000 people.
Well, we've already talked about this. So I'll catch our listeners up to maybe it's been a couple of weeks for Matt Fox, been a couple of weeks for some of our viewers. Maybe it's been a couple of weeks.
It holds what 12,000 people or something like that.
13,000.
13,000. You know, and then they opening the season 2,000 people.
They got nobody. But their minor league team, the Detroit Olympics, are outselling.
There were 10,000 people there to see
10,000 people to watch the minor league team. And 4,000 or 5,000 coming there to watch the majors.
The owner's like, I think I might just switch teams. We're gonna bring these boys over.
Well, they knew that 35 was a big year because the Tigers in 34 had gone all the way to the 7th game in the World Series. The Lions had been moved from Portsmouth, Ohio to Detroit in 1934, and they won their first 10 games, came within an inch of the NFL championship in 34. And so they knew that prior to the 30, like when the spring training of 1935 of the Tigers, there's caravans of Detroit fans going down to Florida, to Lakeland to watch the Tigers because the Tiger fever was absolutely thick in the air. And so the excitement was just palpable for 1935. So the Red Wings knew. The Red Wings prior to 1935, they had a horrible season. I mean, they'd been at 2 years prior, they'd been at their first Stanley Cup, but they'd only been renamed the Red Wings 3 years prior, 1932. Okay. So this is the third name for this franchise. They're trying to click with Detroit. The fans that are coming to watch the Red Wings, the majority are from Canada. They're coming to watch the Red Wings get beat,
stomped on by Canadian
teams. Whenever there's a Canadian team in town, Olympia's got 11,000 fans,
right?
Because they're coming there to root for the Canadian teams. So that's this kind of crazy dynamic, which the home team is like the away team. That's their best nights they're drawing. Is they knew that was unsustainable. That if they want to actually become a heartbeat of Detroit, they had to do something special. In the fact that these other teams were winning in 34, and the Red Wings were absolutely horrendous in 34. They had to be part of the 35 season. They knew this. And we spent an entire episode actually diagnosing and understanding how, they never came out and said, we know we have to be competitive in 35, but you can see by their actions, the $50,000 transaction where they brought in Scottie Bowman and Sid Howe, the Ottawa assassin. They brought him in. Bowman. The difference, but we don't mention that.
I got that.
Anybody that's a viewer of the broadcast know that, we'll say it one more time. When we say Sid Howe, we say Scottie Bowman.
We're not talking.
Sid Howe is not related to Gordie Howe.
Nope.
And Scottie Bowman is not the same Scottie Bowman as the coach.
No.
We swore we would never say that again.
Oh, I was doing it for Matt.
But
but I already knew that.
But you knew that.
Yeah.
But for any viewers that's listening now, that's the second and last time we're going to make that. So anybody that says, that's the same Scottie Bowman, we're not even going to reference it anymore.
I'll say that shit.
Because back in the day in 35, when Gordie Howe came into Detroit and was a rookie, they were like, is Gordy going to be the next Sid?
Right.
So it's a topsy-turvy reversal where
Right,
they're like, is Sid Howe related to Gordy? No, back then when Sid Howe retired, he was the all-time NHL goal scorer.
Yeah.
So when Gordy came in, they were like, is Gordy potentially as good as Sid?
Mhm.
Now
somebody
it's a
just
reversal.
passed his record recently.
Gordy's?
Yeah. For games played.
Oh, forget. Okay. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
News. But anyways, so what I'm saying is that so in 35 they knew they had to be competitive. They made a major move to get Sid Howe and Scottie Bowman, $50,000 move, half the price that they paid to get Mickey, that the Tigers paid to get Mickey Cochran.
But back in 1935, $50,000
massive
is in today's numbers
massive amount,
absolutely
huge,
astonishing number.
Yeah.
Chad,
And
you're
Mickey
a banker.
Cochran,
Figure it out.
Mickey Cochran, to get Mickey Cochran, the Tigers had to spend $100,000. Frank Navin, the owner of the Tigers, that was akin to him mortgaging his entire family's financial future for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So like that was $100,000 for the greatest catcher in baseball. That's what he spent. And then the Red Wings go out and spend $50,000 to get these two stars, to get these young stars. So that was the Red Wings signaling to their fans that this was that 35 was the year that they were going to make all out. And then they went out and got Heck Kilrea and several other players. But they also got lucky because and I say that with a certain deference because Jack Adams had been developing a minor league organization, the Detroit Olympics, who were the only organization that played at Olympia Stadium. And the Detroit Olympics had won the 1934-35 IHL minor league championship.
Yeah.
And so prior to the 35 season, the IHL Olympics played the Red Wings and beat the Red Wings in the intercity series.
Wow.
That's what led to this conversation saying maybe Adams should just flip teams and have the Olympics all the Olympics players play for the Red Wings and then vice versa.
But to answer the question, $50,000 in 1935 is the equivalent of $974,600 today.
So $1 million. Yeah.
But that
was $1 million one-time move. And then,
but in sport, but here's the thing is I understand that as far as the conversion rate.
Yeah.
But as far as the mental figure, like sports in that time,
yeah.
You didn't spend that.
You didn't spend
$1
million on a player.
Exactly. You didn't spend $1 million. That's
But
why
they did.
But they did. Yeah.
But
That's
they
what I'm
did.
saying. It was a massive move that signaled to
The players
fans.
that players did not get paid, nor did you buy them for $1 million.
For $1 million. Exactly.
When you're putting 2,000 people in this
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying is that this was a major move to signal to the fans that 35 because they got Bowman and Sid Howe in 34-35. And so there was a signal to the fans that in 35, just like the Red Wings or just like the Tigers and just like the Lions, the Red Wings were going to be competitive. They made a couple of trades. We spent episodes working on all the players that they brought in. But Jack Adams, of the 15 players on his team, it was 11 new guys.
Right. Yeah.
He completely revamped the team, and then his entirely revamped all-star squad that they assembled for 35 got beaten by the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And so he made several moves. He brought several Olympics players up to the Red Wings. Most notably was Wally Kilrea, the captain of the Olympics, brought him up. But Bucko McDonald, Bucko the freaking Bucko, my favorite player. Bucko, who'd only been in hockey. His 1934 season was his first year ever.
Lacrosse. He was a lacrosse player.
He wasn't an amateur.
No, he was a rugby.
He was a lacrosse player.
Lacrosse. Okay.
He was not an amateur hockey player. He was a superstar lacrosse player.
Did not know
that
how to
strapped
skate.
on skates in his first
Did
year.
not know how to skate.
Hey,
he was skating on his ankle. He was skating on his ankles all the time.
He was a bender, which means his ankles bent at the seams.
Two words. Toe pick.
Yes.
Toe pick.
But he came in 34 and helped the Olympics win the championship. And they're like, let's give this guy a chance. And Bucko was the idol of all the fans. He was the number one fan favorite. In fact, when we were talking about this is the third episode we've done about the Red Wings actual season. And in the first episode we did about the regular season, which was 2 episodes ago, the day that they moved into first place, it was called the Hitless Wonders, and this we're tying into the story of this season as it moves forward. So the first 13 games of the season, the Red Wings were called the Hitless Wonders.
Yeah, they were
last place.
Nothing.
They couldn't score a goal. They were just absolutely terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they started to make some noise. They started to win a little bit. They won a game here. They won a game there. And then what was fascinating is the day that the Lions won the NFL championship was December 15th, 1935. That was the day the Red Wings moved into first place.
Oh my goodness.
And so in the game before, which was December 14th, that was the game that they won to actually, to tie themselves and to make so they were tied for first place.
Right.
Bucko scored his first goal of the season to win the game.
The man that couldn't skate.
So he was kind of like a Darren.
First goal.
He was kind of like a Darren McCarty type. Like he was a bruiser.
Yeah.
He was like a personality on the ice,
Uh-huh.
and he was the kind of guy that when you hit this out of nowhere would score a goal and win you the most important game of the year.
He was the original grind line.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, but he had never had any penalties. Rarely had a penalty. Was always and was one of the greatest. He was a hitter. He was a defenseman, and Bucko, and he had the personality. And I said this and we were talking about Bucko, but I'll say it again. When I wrote this section on Bucko McDonald, there was so much ink on Bucko McDonald from 1935-36 that the rare opportunity existed that I did not say anything for the entire chapter. All I did was introduce Bucko, and I said there was so much press coverage of Bucko in 1935. He was such a fan favorite and such a beloved figure, which we know nothing about now. It's been completely forgotten. But there was so much ink on him in 1935 that I removed myself from the chapter and merely just basically pasted articles of his entire season together. And all I did was put a sentence saying, on this day, the Red Wings had just done this. And then I turned it over to the press of that time to tell the story.
Fair.
So the entire chapter of Bucko McDonald is all just quotes from the press.
He's such a character.
The only chapter.
Though. I mean, he was out eating huge steaks.
He's eating burgers and steaks, and they're he's crazy.
Sides of beef. He was nuts.
Yeah,
he lived hard. He was
a tough
big.
living.
What was he? 6'2", 6'3"? What?
He's like a big kid. He had big ears, big body, 235, 6'2", huge for his era, and he could skate. And the thing is about is there was a guy named Lionel Conacher. Lionel Conacher is in the 1930s. Lionel Conacher was viewed as the greatest Canadian athlete. He's still, people that know about Canadian athletics still view Lionel Conacher as one of the best, if not the best. He's like the Jim Thorpe of Canada. Okay, he was excellent at lacrosse, baseball, hockey, football, everything. Right. Lionel Conacher was the best, and he's a Hall of Famer, and he was one of the best defensemen in the entire NHL in 1935. Played for the Montreal Maroons. Just one of the best players ever. And they viewed Bucko McDonald in 1935 as the next, whenever, he was the new Lionel Conacher. That's how they viewed Bucko as not only the new Lionel Conacher, but the guy that was when Lionel Conacher played the Red Wings, that's the guy they put on him. You see what I'm saying? So anyways, Bucko was a big deal. And we spent a lot of time talking about him. Yes.
So this is the third chunk of the season.
Yeah. So the first chunk, we talked about the hit list one.
Yeah.
And so games 1 through 13, the Red Wings, they started out incredibly slow, but then they started, and that what's interesting is on the 13th game of the year, the newspapers, they actually said, we came to this game against the Boston Bruins, game number 13. We came here to ask Jack Adams the question, what's wrong with the Red Wings? And they were like, you know what? The game we came here to ask him that question was answered by the play on the ice, because the Red Wings were amazing. Yeah. They were amazing. Yeah. They were like, there was no debate. They won, I think it was 2-1 or something like this. But the score, but the score didn't tell you the whole story. That they were incredible in this 13th game. They're like, we don't even want to ask them that question more because they were so good, right? They were so good. Yeah. And then we also talked about how in that game they only drew 4,000 fans. Right. Whereas a previous game against literally 2 days prior, the Detroit Olympics drawn 10,000. So it wasn't there was a lack of hockey interest necessarily in the city. It was a lack that they were drawn towards the Olympics, the Detroit Olympics, who were winning games. And then we moved on to the episode previous, the episode we just did, which we didn't give an official name, but I wrote it down here as the Orgy of Victory, because the Reds went on this tear. They went on this tear.
I put that in the notes.
Did you? Sure. Okay, good. The Orgy of Victory.
Was that
because they went on this
Yeah.
So they went on this crazy. They went on this tear, and we also contrasted in that segment of games, which lasted in the last episode from games 14 to 25. And then keep in mind the entire season's 48 games. Yeah. So games 14 to 25. We talked about how just a week later when they played Boston again. So the first game where they broke out against Boston, they only had 4,000 fans. But a week later, that the fans had recognized that the Red Wings were on the rise. And so in that game, they set an attendance record at like it was like a 12,000 fans.
Wow.
And these were Detroiters coming to watch against Boston. This wasn't a Canadian team.
Because they wanted to see Boston lose.
Was that Christmas
because
night?
they wanted to see the Red Wings win.
Right.
Because the Red Wings are now playing because the Red Wings are now in first place. They're playing not for just some obscure Canadian trophy. They're playing for the greater potential of City of Champions, the greater glory of the city. The Lions have won, the Tigers have won, Joe Louis has done his thing, and now the Red Wings represent the final mantle, the final championship trophy to put on the mantle of Detroit.
Right. So
now the fans are interested in that.
Is that where the version of bandwagon comes in because they're noticing what's
No,
going
I don't
on?
think so. I think what it is that the fans were finally engaged. It gave them something to engage. The engagement is that, again, Joe Louis had done his thing. The Tigers had won the World Series. The Lions had won the NFL championship.
Right.
And now the Red Wings were the final major championship.
And they were on an upswing.
Yeah, and they were on the upswing.
Final piece of the puzzle.
The final piece of the puzzle. And so now, and I've said this, I even say this in the books, is that no team benefited from the City Championship season more than the Red Wings, because what it did is the Lions were like the fulcrum. When they won on December 15th, anybody that opened their paper, they open the newspaper up and they see on the same cover that the Lions win the championship, and on the same day that the Red Wings are in first place. It says Red Wings move into first place. It was an instant trigger. And Joe Louis is on the same page that said Joe Louis wins best, most outstanding athlete of the year in 1935. So they're like, Detroit's full of champions or maybe champions. What's this hockey thing all about? So now they're introducing the game of hockey. They're drawing fans to Olympia. And for the first time really ever, Detroit fans are engaged. They're like, what are our chances to win? Who are our players? What is this all about? Is this any good? I'm going to go check out a game. It's in the dead of winter. What else do I got to do? They're going to check out Red Wings games. And what they're getting out of it is a team on the ice that are a bunch of, as we've read articles before, whirling dervishes, red wolves on the prowl. The articles, the newspaper,
the language,
the newspaper articles are making you wish that you were there.
Let's bring that. Let's bring whirling dervishes back.
Yes,
let's bring that back.
But these are the articles that these newspaper writers are writing, and so imagine you're just like, you've never watched hockey before, and you're like going to work, and a guy comes by and goes, "My God, that Red Wings game last night was so friggin' cool," and they go, "What do you mean? Like what hockey? I heard that sport sucks," and they're like, "No." Like, it is crazy. It's like, it's like football on ice. It's crazy. Red Wings won. We're winning. They could win a championship this year. And then you open the newspaper and they're like, Red Wolves on the prowl. And you're like, you just feel like you just missed out on something awesome.
Right.
And so you're like, well, hell, I'm going to go check it out. So you go to the game, and then they win again. And then like the fans are going insane. You go there, the house is packed. You're part of something that's like, you feel like you're part of something. And now you're hooked. And this was the year. And this is why I say this was the year that Detroit fell in love with hockey. And this is why we do what we do for this show, is that we are showing you why Detroit fell in love with hockey, how they fell in love with it, and potentially like who we are as a people, as far as a hockey loving, a sports loving city and a people.
Nothing to do with pizza.
Yeah, no,
zero.
Well, no, but anyways, I'm going
to tell that to you twice. Nothing.
Yeah. So what we left off was,
we
went through games 14 to 25.
Yep.
And what we covered over the course of really the last two episodes was not just the downs of the hitless wonders in the first part of the season and then the ups of the orgy of victory, but we also talked about was this inner story, which was the rivalry with the Chicago Blackhawks. And we spent several episodes introducing the reasons how this rivalry extends all the way back to the birth of these organizations.
It's the birth of the original six.
Exactly.
Right?
It's the birth of hockey in America. That we did the Portland Rosebuds came over from Canada, the Victoria Cougars came over, and both those teams became the Victoria Cougars became the Detroit Cougars, and the Portland Rosebuds became the Blackhawks. They both came into the NHL at the exact same moment. And from that time, there was numerous situations that led to this growing rivalry. In recent past, most notably, was that the Red Wings were beaten by the Blackhawks in the 1933 Stanley Cup Championship in the final game for the Stanley Cup.
Right.
So the Blackhawks' first Stanley Cup was won at the expense of the Red Wings. And so this rivalry is growing year after year after year. And here we are in 35. All the other Detroit teams have won their championships. The Red Wings are and all the teams that won. The Tigers beat the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions had to go through the Bears to get to the NFL championship.
Right.
So the road to the championships have been through Chicago, and now here we are again. The Blackhawks have a chance to play spoiler, which elevates ratchets up the intensity of this rivalry dogfight, and that's where we are today. And the subject of today's episode is Dogfight. Dogfight. Yes. So here we are now after catching up and after getting through. So here we are.
Thank you for the refresher, because I think your listeners, everything that you just said, there's a lot of passion that goes into what you just said.
Wait till we see it on TV. Wait till we see it as a Netflix show. This is the road to the Stanley Cup. And I'm not to give anything away what happens at the end of this whole thing. Spoiler alert, they win. Okay. But not to give anything away. But every book that's ever even mentioned the 35 Red Wings, they just go, oh, they had the three guys, Marty Berry, Herbie Lewis, and Larry Ori, which were great, and they scored a bunch of goals and they won. Okay, let's move on to the Red Wing with the Gordie Howe and shit. That's not what the 35 season deserves. A movie unto itself. This is one of the greatest. Like we talk about the Colorado Avalanche, how incredible that was. Mm-hmm. The rivalry with the Chicago, the Colorado Avalanche. I was there for all. I watched all this stuff, and it was. It's one of the eras that I fell in love with hockey. But my God, the 35 dogfight with the Blackhawks is something that has been completely forgotten. And if it was shown on film how great it was, it would instantly become one of everybody's favorite stories.
So let me ask the question, the elephant in the room. During the playoffs back then, how many games were in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Was it still
five-game
series?
5-game series.
So
did
it all they won in 3.
They would have won 3 and you moved on.
Right.
And there was two. There was a quarterfinal, a semifinal, and then the finals.
Right. So for Chicago and the Red Wings.
I take that back. It was 2 rounds. It was a semifinals and then the Stanley Cup finals.
All right. So
there's only 8 teams.
So it was 5 games in the Stanley Cup final, right?
Yeah, 5 games. Well, it was 7-game final. You had to win 4.
Okay. So how many games did it take for the Red Wings to win the Stanley Cup championship that year?
You put me on the spot because I got to make sure I get all my notes down. But it was I believe it was 4. I think I won it. It was. I take that back. It was 5. It was 5.
Right. So it didn't go all 7 games.
No, it did not go all 7. But there's this thing. But wait till we get to the playoffs. I'll have the numbers down for that and all that because I just for me is, and I want to admit this right. There's earlier episodes. I've got a couple the statistics wrong. That's why I write everything down because what I know, the thing that for me is the way that my mind works for history. It's doesn't work with technical dates and everything like this. The way that my mind grabs history is understanding how the story unfolds, what this led to this. Why did the motivations behind people, the result, sort of the results and what led to such and such. I've never been really great with dates and numbers and stuff like this. That's why I write everything down. So that's why I've actually had a couple of
we had a couple corrections,
because and that's why I started really writing everything down because I forget. And anybody that's listening, maybe it was 5 games, I forget, to be honest with you. But when we get to that point, you will see that one of the there was the Stanley Cup playoffs were one of the most incredible stories that are ever to be told. And I mean, it's the story I'm going to get to today. If we ever get to it today,
well, go for it, man.
Go whenever we get to the regular season. When we get to finally get through the regular season, the playoffs are just the most epic playoffs ever. I mean, and I dare anybody when we get to that point, tell me a playoff series that is better than what we're going to get to with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want. I mean, you have the longest game in NHL history. I don't want to get to it. We're going too far ahead. I want to get to the regular season now.
Yeah.
So anyway, so now where we are,
games.
Game number 26 of a 48-game season. We're going to start and start to smash through this.
Right? All right, let's go.
Game number 26 is where we begin today's show, and as I mentioned, the dogfight. And no dogfight would be complete without beginning the opening freaking snarls between the two dogs. In the opening snarls are game number 2 with the Blackhawks, 0-0 tie, season series 0-0-1, right? So they open the series, the thing up with a tie.
Do I need the graphic with the?
We can show. Well, no, hold on. Wait one second on the.
All right, I got it.
Unless you have last week's with Mike Karakas with that one with Mike Karakas, because the Blackhawks. What's fascinating is The goalie of the Blackhawks, Mike Karakas, which is shown in this picture here.
Christmas,
Yes, this picture was from Christmas night, 1935, against the Red Wings. Christmas night at Olympia. Red Wings are in first place, playing against the Blackhawks, and the Wings actually lose that game 0-2. Karakas has a shutout, but Mike Karakas is a signature person in this rivalry dogfight because the Red Wings had cut him. The Red Wing, he played for James Norris with the Chicago Shamrocks and was cut. He was offered to the Red Wings for free. The Red Wings cut him. They don't even want him. He could have had him for free. They don't even want him. And so he returns 2 years later as the starting goalie of the Chicago Blackhawks and will go on to win Rookie of the Year. Yes, so the goalie of the Blackhawks detests the Red Wings, and he's just one amongst many. The owner hates him. The coaches hate him. Everybody hates everybody. The fans hate them. They all hate each other. It's just, and that's so. Anyways, so Karakas so game number 2 is 0-0 tie. So the second time they play the Blackhawks, the Red Wings win 3-1. So we're going to show one of the graphics.
A teeter-totter,
it goes back and forth. Tie, win, loss, win, loss. So anyway, so here we are. So it goes back and forth and back and forth. So as we enter, so game number 27. So I said we'd start with game 26. Toronto. So they go game 26, which is the first game we have for this little segment.
Yeah.
Toronto wins 1-6. So the Red Wings lose. And so game number 27, the Wings are shut out by Boston.
Oh.
All right. So they've started off this next little string with a couple of losses, right? But keep in mind, the Red Wings are on this huge road trip. This road trip is taking them all over the country. So it's not easy necessarily to win when you're on the road every single day. And that's what they're doing, right? So this takes us to game number 28. So game 28 so this is the game that it's against the Blackhawks, right? So their season series record going into game number 28, so it's even. It's 2 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie. Right, so this game is going to is like the net is like in a sort of a pseudo tiebreaker, right? And so so they go into this game, and game 28, it's a 3-4 loss. It's a 3-4 loss. But this is an article I want to read. Okay, this is a quote I want to read because I can't describe it. I was not there, right? So what you're looking at here, Matt,
I love these authors too.
Oh,
the way they bring this stuff to life.
So what you're looking at
taking their liberties with language. Go.
So what I have here, Matt, and I'll show this to the camera a little bit. This is this binder I have, right?
Yeah.
And so what I have here, this binder is like this is the only primary source of the Red Wings' first season. I have every game from the Red Wings and the Olympics. Every article, it goes all the way through the season. It's like a giant book of just articles with a crap ton of notes that I've written that goes game by game through the whole season. And so I'm reading to you now from the only primary source about this Red Wings 1935 season. So here it is. So the Red Wings have just lost 3-4. And this is the thing, Detroit. And if you want to show the graphic that shows the records, that shows the Detroit's record in 1935, how it ebbs and flows. So in this season, I don't know if you can zoom in, that red patch is where is the episode we're talking about today. So the Red Wings moved down into second place as a result of this loss to Chicago. And who moves into first place? Chicago. Yes. So the Red Wings have been in first place. They've been cruising. They had the orgy of victories. They've jumped from being the hitless wonders, and now they're in second place. And so this is the article that talks about by Leo McDonald. This article came out on January 31st, 1936. So here he says, beaten and bruised, the Red Wings today in second place licked their wounds in the wake of the season's most fiercely fought hockey game, which was won by the Blackhawks 4-3 in stormy Olympia last night. Atop the American division were the conquering and smirking Blackhawks with a 1-point margin over Detroit, a lead the Red Wings enjoyed going into last night's battle. It is the first time the Red Wings have been out of first place since a month ago when they celebrated New Year's by moving to the top at the expense of the team that last evening dumped them into the second hole. So they won. The Red Wings moved into first place previously by beating the Blackhawks in their last incursion. Now the Blackhawks have come back, beat them, and dumped them into second place. So in an angry mood, as they packed today for a trip to Montreal, meaning the Red Wings going out to Montreal, they weren't fit companions for the angriest of John Millen's Lions at the Detroit Zoo. Their mood boded no good for their next antagonist, who happened to be the Canadiens tomorrow night. Somebody's got to pay for it, Larry Orey murmured, as Sudbury's gift to hockey brooded over missing a left hook. As Sudbury's Give to Hockey brooded over missing a left hook aimed at Art Weeb during one of the flamingest moments of last night's brawl. He's mad because he missed hit him with a fucking left hook. Defeat for the Red Wings came as 10,000 thrill-packed fans roared and booed alternately through 3 periods of action-crammed puck chasing marked by a mixture of good and bad playing and fistic encounters.
Jeez.
Added to this were refereeing, which brought a deluge of souvenirs on the ice, hurled by a crowd made wrathful by fanatic decisions injected by a couple of Frank Calder's hired hands more cockeyed than ever.
You said deluge.
Yeah. But he's like making fun of the referee saying more the referee's more cockeyed than ever, like mocking the refs, right?
Wow.
So he says officials rouse fans. It has been several seasons since officials have been so successful in arousing a Detroit crowd to such a pitch. A flood of newspapers, oranges, apples, tobacco cans, and other trinkets once forced a delay at Olympia attachés cleaned the debris from the ice as the fans poured their spleen on AJ Smith and Billy Bell, the conspirators.
My po' boy.
They poured their spleen on the referee.
And they're like, you're like, well, why do they make you? They don't give you a bottle at the thing anymore. It's like,
yeah. Well, I'll explain. Here we go. I got another one here. Why don't they give you glass bottles at Olympia? Here we go. This is the reason why. Last goal made by Smith, roared one incensed fan as Chicago scored, and the huge crowd roared at his second the motion. This was an example of the temper of the crowd. Among the missiles was an empty whiskey bottle which sailed over the press section and just missed a player on the head. The weapon so struck the ice that it skimmed along without breaking.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, this so I'll keep going real quick because this talks about Mike Karakas.
Yeah.
I love Mike Karakas, even though I hate him because he was the goalie of the Blackhawks. I love him because he was the nemesis.
Oh, he is.
So while costly penalties inflicted on the Red Wings helped the Blackhawks no little, to Mike Karakas, the season's sensation in Major League net minding, goes the greatest credit for Chicago's smashing win. So revenge is complete. Tops, the Minnesota kid who wasn't good enough to play for Detroit, more than got even with Detroit, batting and kicking out pucks with the finest exhibition of goal minding that Olympia this season. On the basis of his performance last night, Karakas should make any diving team in the Olympics. His miracle diving robbed the Red Wings of what looked like a number of sure goals. So they gave credit to Karakas as the guy that, I mean, the Red Wings still got 3 goals, but they're like, Karakas was still stopping them, right? So anyways, so we get this, and so now the Red Wings are in second place. So it's back and forth, ebb and flow, right? So game 29, 3-1. So they go in there and they take their anger out on the Montreal Canadiens. So 3-1 win. So their win and Chicago actually loses at this moment, puts Detroit back into first place.
Oh, okay.
But they're not sole position. It's a tenuous hold at first place at this moment.
Yep.
So game number 30. This is kind of key because game 30, the Red Wings face the Rangers. It's a 4-4 tie. But what's interesting about this game is at the very end of the game, Johnny Sorrell, who we spent a chunk of an episode introducing as one of the core components of the Red Wings, Johnny Sorrell had not done anything this year. He had only had 3 goals up to this point. Like he was a goal scorer. Like he was the kind of guy that scored like 20 goals a year, which is decent, but he's one of these guys that's like, just, he's just kind of, he's a core component. He's a solid player. He scores here and there, but he's always like kind of contributing. But in this year, he wasn't contributing anything. He like up to this point, we're 30 games in and he's only got 3 goals.
Right.
So his 4th goal comes at the very end of this game, which allows the Red Wings to hang on and get a tie. And then in that tie allows them to retain a tie with the Chicago Blackhawks for first place as they enter game 31 against
the Blackhawks.
Yes. Thank you, Jamie. You did it. You've known me so long.
What's he do? Gets on base.
Yes. Game 31, they enter the Blackhawks, right? And this is where it starts to get fascinating, right?
Yeah.
So game 31, we sit here, we're talking about Mike Karakas, and I'm doling out how much I love the nemesis of our team and all this different stuff. But in this game, so this is game 31, all built. I want to read up a little article here. This is I don't need to hype it. Red Wings are tied for first place.
Yeah.
They're going to Chicago. If the Blackhawks win, they're sole possession of first place.
Oh.
If the Red Wings win, they're sole possession of first place. The season series going into this is tied. 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie. What else do I need to hype up?
Right.
This is the
game.
It might be game 31 with 27 more games to play, but at this moment,
sure,
it's for all the marbles.
Oh yeah.
And the Red Wings, they can't lose this, right?
No.
And nor do they.
Yeah.
The Red Wings win this game
on the road.
1-0.
Oh.
So they shut out the Blackhawks.
Nice.
Normie Smith, the goal, and this is where I want to bring
up the goalies.
Yeah. Well, so actually, hold on one more second.
All
one
right.
more second here. We'll bring him up in a second. But here's the thing. So 1-0. So the Red Wings go into Chicago, and Normie Smith, who we haven't, we've mentioned him in the intro, episodes, but here it is. Normie comes out, and Mike Karakas, we already talked about in the previous article here, was the season sensation, right? And he gets beaten. He gives up 1 goal, and Normie gives up none. So this is a goal. This is a goalie duel, right?
Yep.
I got a couple little notes here just to make sure I get it all in. 1-0 shutout of the Blackhawks. Detroit ends up 2+ games for first place. And so this is what's cool too, is that Johnny Sorrell, who had gotten the goal in the end of that New York Rangers game that had allowed Detroit to stay tied for Chicago in first place, gets the game winner. So the only goal scored in the game was by Johnny Sorrell, who had saved him at the end of the previous game to keep in first place. And now he gets the only goal to win the game for this against the Blackhawks, you see? So even though he hadn't, he'd been having an awful season sort of statistically wise, 2 of the most important goals thus far up to this point,
he's shining,
are scored by Johnny Sorrell. And that's that right there. When we did the introduction of Johnny Sorrell, I talked about how he had a knack for getting sort of important goals. And this right here highlights it. This is the evidence of this is that in this 1-0 win, Johnny Sorrell gets it. That's why Adams kept him around. That's why he was a core component of the team. Is that when he was, he wasn't, it's tough to define. When somebody looks in a book and is like, who is Johnny Sorrell? They look at a Wikipedia and oh, he had 15 goals this year and 17 goals another year. You just, he is what he is. But when you see him in the context where this critical game, right, he gets the lone goal to win this game. So anyway, Sorrell gets the goal. There's no fights, which is sort of a rarity because both teams,
these guys are brawlers.
Well, these teams knew the importance of this game.
Penalties.
No penalties.
Yeah.
They're not trying to get any penalties. There's no fights. This is a professional, workmanlike, scientific game where both these teams knew what they needed to do to win the that they didn't want to give the other team any advantages, so they kept discipline. No fights. 16,873 fans at Chicago Stadium.
Oh yeah,
this is at Chicago Stadium. It wasn't Olympia, but this is the largest weekday game at Chicago Stadium ever.
Wow,
sets a new record. So that shows you at the time how big this game. Even in Chicago, they viewed it as a major game.
Yeah.
Joe Louis was in attendance.
Oh, nice.
As well as the NHL president, Frank Calder. This was a major deal. Joe Louis is there. Mike Karakas refuses to shake Normie Smith's hand at the end of the game. And here's a little quote right here. So couldn't take it. Chicago, February 7th. The darling of the Chicago Blackhawks, goalie Mike Karakas refused the friendly handshake of Normie Smith, Detroit goal miner, after the Red Wings Blackhawks game last night. Normie skated down the ice to shake. The word's kind of tough to read. Normie skated on the ice to shake Mike's hand, offered to shake hands, but Karakas didn't acknowledge his rival as he pushed his way to the dressing room. So Karakas wouldn't even shake Normie's hand. So this is, the good sportsmanlike conduct. That right there, that little component just dives into that moment where they're like, I'm not shaking your hand. I hate you guys. This ain't, we're not friends. I got nothing to do with you. So now after this game, the season series 3-3-1. It's once again even up, right? It's once again even up. And so that's what's so cool. So it's even up with, there's only one game left in this 48 game season. There's only one. So just to refresh you, Matt, the Red Wings win 1-0 against the Blackhawks in game number 31, win 1-0. It's a goalie duel. And Normie Smith shines, beats Mike Karakas. Red Wings shine. So now the season series is 3-3-1. Red Wings are sole possession of first place. Season series 3-3-1. It's all tied up. There's only going to be one more game between these two teams, and as we're going to find out next episode, not today, but we're going to find out in next episode, that this game is going to decide the entire season for both teams.
Oh, okay.
So wait till we get to that. That's what I'm saying. This is the greatest rivalry dogfight in the history. Like, I mean, one of the greatest ever. So anyway, so that's game number 31. So here's this is, I have a great little quote here that following this game, this guy had Leo McDonald had a great article talking about how Chicago wanted to stop Detroit from winning the City of Champions, how they wanted to be play spoiler and knock the Red Wings off so that they would not do it. So it says, so Leo McDonald, this article is from February 7th, 1936. He says, John Chicago thinks Miss Detroit is a terrific glutton. So the lovers quarreled here yesterday, each declaring that they won't make up. It's hockey that brought it on, a thought in puck-chasing circles, if nothing more than a fight figuratively. You got the world champions in baseball, John pouted. You've got the pro football champions, Joe Louis and Garwood and everything. Yes, I know, but we've never had the Stanley Cup, Miss Detroit shrilled, pounding the skis on the cocktail bar. So you seem like they're alluding to the idea that we've never had the Stanley Cup.
But you ain't had the cup.
So we want that too.
Where it's coming, baby.
Yes.
Oops, spoiler.
So game number 32, 7-3 win over the Maroons. It's an absolute assault.
What a Maroon.
So the Montreal Maroons, they're gonna meet the Wings eventually in the play. Maroons are a great team, and so a 7-3 victory over them was tremendous.
Yeah.
And it's at this. I can sit here and ramble through all the goals, but there was a ton of them. Scottie Bowman's first goal in the game. Scottie Bowman's first goal of the season it was the first goal of this game.
Ooh.
And what's kind of significant about it is that the Maroons had scored. So it was 1-0 Maroons. And then right after that, Scottie Bowman came down with his first goal of the year, scored the goal, equalizer, and then the momentum completely shifted and it became a deluge, 7-3 win by the Wings.
So it was timely. Is that what you're saying?
Incredibly timely for his first goal of the season, especially. So game 32 goes to the Red Wings, and the Red Wings at this moment are +4 games in first place. And then so game 33, so game 33, this is where we're going to leave off with this game here, which is a 1-0 win by the Red Wings over Boston. And the reason I kind of want to leave off with here because this is where we can bring up these goalies on the screen here, where I seen that the image. So in 1935, like the three big like headline goalies of this year, and it's a great moment it's a rare opportunity to mention a tremendous goalie in the history of hockey, which is a guy named Cecil Tiny Thompson.
I love that. I love the name.
Tiny Thompson is in this era, like anybody like Tiny Thompson is just the peerless goalie. I mean, he is like the guy. Tiny Thompson is just unbelievable. And so the fact that Normie Smith in game number 33, and this is what this graphic has on the screen here. Jamie, can you zoom in just a hair so I can actually read the thing for myself?
Nope.
Oh, you can't? I thought you could on that.
Not the way I got it set up right now.
I got the paper. I got the notes here anyways. So just to give an example of how great Tiny Thompson was. So Tiny Thompson this year would actually be like awarded the trophy for the best goalie, which is the Vezina trophy. This was his third.
I can
Vezina
read
trophy.
what's on there.
Okay. Well, so I got my notes here anyways. So Tiny Thompson in 1935 has 10 shutouts, which is number one in hockey. Out of 48 games, Tiny Thompson has 10 of those games are shutouts, which is 25, almost like, what is that? 22% of his games are shutouts.
Jeez. So 1.68.
1.68 goals against average, which is also number one in the league. 10 shutouts, number one. And just to put in sort of context, Mike Karakas, who's another player we have up on the screen here, has 40. All three goalies that we were talking about here have 48 games. They played all the games in the season. So Mike Karakas, he has a 1.85 goals against average. So sub 2, just like sub 2 goals a game, just like Tiny Thompson. So Mike Karakas is number 2 in goals against average.
So if they both played 48 games. Oh, all right.
Mm-hmm.
So they played every game. All right.
And so did Normie Smith, who's the next person I mentioned. So just a quick kind of rundown just to show you. Tiny Thompson, 1.68 goals against average, which means basically 1.5 goals a game.
And he's a Boston guy.
He's the Boston goalie.
Okay.
And then Mike Karakas, 1.85 goals a game. All right. And then Normie Smith, who's the third guy we have on the screen, 2.04 goals against average.
Okay.
Right. So 2 goals a game on average. Right. Tiny Thompson, 10 shutouts. That's number 1 in NHL. Mike Karakas, 9 shutouts. Number 2 in the NHL. Normie Smith, 6 shutouts, which is number 5th in the NHL. So he's sort of down the list, right? A little bit. He's 5th in the list.
Yeah.
But of all these different things, you know what Normie had over all of them?
What did he have?
number one in wins.
Normie
Smith was the winner. Exactly. So there's something to be said. There's something to be said for there's the statistics and all this, but there's also it's about winning. And Normie Smith would end up this year as a Stanley Cup champion goalie.
Yeah, baby.
You see what I'm saying? So he wasn't number one in goals against average. He wasn't number one in shutout, but he's the number one in winning Stanley Cup championships in 1935.
That's all that matters, right?
Exactly. And also number one in wins.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. So that's why I love this little screen. I found some really great pictures on these guys. I love these pictures. The Normie Smith, the hat flipped up is just the coolest picture.
Yeah. He wore a baseball hat most of the time while he was goalie.
And in this picture, he's got his hat flipped up, like the Bills flipped up, like it's
that
like
was
one of
his
those
deal.
30s look. Yeah, it's a great shot. But in this game, that's what I love about this game too. This is where we're going to leave it. Is that Normie Smith shut out Tiny Thompson in this game. Wow. You know what I mean? So one of Normie Smith's 6 shutouts comes against Tiny and beats Tiny for this game. Yeah. And so I want to read kind of a cool quote because I do want to end it here, which is so Marty Berry. So we talked about Marty Berry was he was the first line center for the Red Wings this season. And in fact, if you ever read any Detroit Red Wings history books and they talk about 35, they always mention the line of Marty Berry, Larry Orey, and Herbie Lewis. And the thing that they always, every single book, whenever you read a book about the 1935 Red Wings, they always say the Red Wings traded for Marty Berry for their lone all-star, Cooney Weiland. Like I can literally put that in quotes because every book says the same thing. The reason why the Red Wings in 34 were different from the Red Wings in 35 was because the Red Wings traded their lone all-star, Cooney Weiland, for Marty Berry, and that changed everything. That's partially true. That's certainly a component. Marty Berry was a tremendous player, but Cooney Weiland was a tremendous player for Boston, the guy they traded away. They were both fantastic. And it was an ongoing story throughout the entire year as far as which team had gotten the better of that trade. But in this particular game, in which the Red Wings shut out the Bruins 1-0, this is a case, Marty, there's many other elements of why Marty Berry was so valuable. He was one of the best passers in the game. He was a big guy. Rarely would anybody try to fight Marty Berry. He was such a beast. But in this particular game, this quote right here, Berry was the one that scored this goal against his former team, who he had been traded from to win this game. And this little quote here adds a little flavor to that story. This is why I want to kind of end it off with this. So the title of the article, this comes out February 14th, 1936, written by Leo McDonald, Detroit Times. Goal by Berry takes Bruins in camp. I got to get close to this one to read it because it's got a little bit of accent. I got to throw a little of my own sauce.
There you go, get it.
I got to throw my own little sauce and spice in this. Marty Berry today whistles a gay Irish tune as he packed for Toronto, where tomorrow night the Red Wings play the Maple Leafs. It sounded like When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. It's a fine day, Mr. Berry, says the cop on the beat. It's a fine day. What do you mean it's a fine day? It's a beautiful day, says Mr. Berry. I see you beat them Bostons last night, says the cop. Yes, them Bostons, we did so, says Mr. Berry. Keeps it to himself, but modest Mr. Berry doesn't tell Terry the cop how Detroit beat the Bostons 1-0. It was Mr. Berry himself, and was it a gigantic goal? It was the biggest goal Mr. Berry ever made in his whole fine life. What finer than whipping them Bostons, says Montreal Irishman. To get the value of this, you must remember Berry was traded from Boston to Detroit for Cooney Weiland, and there has been a sort of contest as to whether or not Detroit or Boston got the better of that deal. But the basis of last night's game, one must be led to believe that Detroiters are ahead of that deal. So there was another little component here. Berry's goal was achieved early in the second period with the help of Herbie Lewis, and it was as fine a play as any would want to see. Racing down a left wing, Lewis passed over to Berry. The puck skimmed between Eddie Shore and Eddie Howlett. Boston defenseman straight to Berry, who swung in on Thompson from the right wing and fired from about 15 feet out. The rubber all but tore a hole high in the Boston net.
Nice.
Wow.
Berry was Irish. I had to throw a little Irish spice.
I like that. You got a little Irish spin on that.
I had to throw a little Irish spice into it.
Irish eyes were smiling, yeah.
But the author threw the spice into it. Mm-hmm. I had to try to convey from the past.
So we don't hate all the Blackhawks. All right, I'm throwing a picture up of Ed Belfour and his son Dane Belfour.
Yeah, we don't hate
and then
all
Brian.
the Blackhawks. Yeah.
They were just in town.
We don't hate any. The thing about it is that the rivalry intensity of these teams, and this is one of the things I've talked about on several occasions, is the rivalry with these teams is what makes us want to go watch.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that 35 people. A lot of times, 1935 is discounted. because they say, oh, there's only 8 teams in 1935. There wasn't like the 30 teams that there is now. They're like, oh, there's hardly any teams, so it's easier to win championships, whatever. But when you have less teams, you face the same teams. It's kind of like the 1950s with Gordie Howe. That was the original 6. There's only 6 teams in the NHL in the 1950s, right? 6 teams. So when you play the same teams over and over, the fans know everything about every one of those opponents.
Right.
Every time somebody gets dumped on the ice, smacked in the face, every single one of those things gets added to the sum total tally of all the things that you hate that guy for, that you hate that team for. And even a new player on that team, you hate that guy just because he's part of that bunch of scoundrels that you already hate. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the less teams, that's why, like, this season is discounted by many people because they're like, oh, there were so less teams. But the fans, they knew every single player on every single team. And that's because there was less of them. It was easier to follow, and there was more confrontations. There was more opportunities to establish grudges and rivalries in this. And in that way, it's almost like sort of like a high school or college type situation. But that's what made pro sports so cool, was that those pro teams, like a player could be with the same team for like 10 years instead of like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And so it really developed these rivalries between these cities. And a lot
and you know, fans and people were really invested in those players.
Yes.
You know,
and Marty Berry, before he came to Detroit, was hated by the Red Wings. He was hated by the players. He was hated by the fans.
Yeah.
That's why it was like crazy. They're like, what are you doing, Jack? Why are you bringing Marty Berry here, dude? All of us have fought this guy. He's knocked 2 of my teeth out last year.
Yeah.
You know, like, Mark, we hate that guy, you know? And that's how I wrote him into the movie, was that he was like this guy that, like, you know, that they didn't even like when he first showed up, but they knew he was like, you know, he's a great player, of course, but they're like, so was the guy we traded, you know? The Cooney was great. He was like one of the best goal scorers in the NHL.
They're swallowing your pride and just do your job.
Yeah, they did, and they brought him in, but, you know, they embraced him, but at the same time, like, the fans are, but that's like what adds. And I think that's one of the components of sports that a lot of the leagues and that today do not understand, is that like, the, you know, especially how the drama, it's almost like a soap opera half the time. Nowadays, the soap opera comes off the field, but it used to be, or, you know, I don't want to say like back in my day, it was like this. What I'm trying to say is that one of the cool components of sports is the fans getting to know these other teams and getting to, and like the rivalries. A lot of times we think of rivalries as it's only like we have a rivalry with Chicago because they're, you know, sort of near us, or we have a rivalry with Milwaukee because they're sort of near us. But those rivalries are developed over time. And if these leagues would actually help to foster some of these rivalries, then it would even be, you know, then it would actually lead to more engaging content that people would want to watch their things more, because it's like, oh my God, I don't care if my team's in or not, but I'm not going to get beat by the Cleveland team.
Well, we're going to continue this rivalry with Chicago and the whole NHL as we move to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, the next episode is the final game with the Blackhawks, which is going to decide it all. There's a teaser.
Okay. All right, cool. So we'll do that next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please follow, subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff.
Share.
Share. Tell a friend, and appreciate you.
Every like, every
along.
Subscribe really helps. We're trying to grow the channel. We've got, I think, double-digit listeners now, which is like high double digits, mid double digits.
Right on.
Something.
Low we got
double
people.
digits. We got mid double digits.
All right, so but yeah, follow, and thank you so much for sharing time with us. And till next time, right? We're still playing hockey. Keep your stick on the ice, right?
Keep your stick on the ice.